to the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. Whether it's painting, carving, photography, or pancake art, everyone has a creative, artistic side. Get ready to enjoy our next presenter and creative seminar.
One little spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation. Right at the start of everything that's new. One little spark lights up for you.
Oh, hello there. Glad you could come along. My name is Jason Tackett, and I'm a self-taught digital artist here at Walt Disney World. Now, the music and lyrics you just saw on the screen were done by Disney legends Richard and Robert Sherman for the original version of the Journey into Imagination attraction here at Epcot, and perfectly sum up the purpose of today's discussion. In that original attraction, we met the Dream Finder, who searched the universe for sounds, colors, anything which can spark the imagination. And when he found just the right combination of sparks of inspiration, he could put them together to create something amazing and marvelous and new, in this case, a figment. Here are some of his favorite sparks. 2 tiny wings, eyes big and yellow, horns of a steer, but a lovable fellow. From head to tail, he's royal purple pigment, and there, voila, you've got a figment. Now, we all know this cute little guy as a figment of imagination, but since your figments are created from the sparks of inspiration in the world around you, you might create a figment of commemoration or even a figment of vacation. And your figment might not look like that. Your figment might come out in the form of a new poem, or a painting, or a song, not necessarily a little purple dragon. So, where can you find the sparks of inspiration in the world around you so you can create your own figment? Well, we're going to step over to the Inspirometer. All right. We're going to step inside my mind's eye, where I can show you all the things which inspire me. Is my symposium stretching, or is it just your imagination? So, the easiest areas that you can find figment or sparks of inspiration in the world around you include your pets, your friends, your families, amazing places that you visited, and things of beauty in the world around you. Basically, all of the good times and the bad times. All of the sparks of inspiration you collect in the world around you during your travels can come together at any moment to create something totally amazing and new. You might see something here at the Epcot International Festival of the Arts, for example, which will give you the urge to try painting, or flower arranging, or singing. Those little urges you're feeling, those are your sparks of inspiration deep down inside, jumping around and waving their arms and saying, "Let me out to play!" So, my question to you now, are you ready to go on a magic journey to see if we can find the creative spark that still lives down inside of you? Come on. All right. If you guys are ready, let's start at the beginning. Now, this is the point where I gave myself a water break, but I didn't bring water up because I'm so nervous I was about to dump the water all over myself. So, water. Alrighty. So let me start by asking everyone a question. Raise your hand if you enjoy looking at beautiful works of art. Pretty much everybody. All right, now raise your hand if you think you have it within you to create an amazing work of art. A lot fewer hands went up that second time, and the ones who didn't raise their hand at all are looking at me like, I can draw a stick figure with the head the shape of a potato. Let me just take a few more minutes of your time and prove to you, you have been and always will be an amazing artist. All right? I'm going to start by saying a couple words from the attraction that I love the most. I'll wind this dial and time escapes. Let's look back to when you drew simple shapes. When we were little, we stepped outside into this new world for the very first time, and we saw amazing things like blue skies, and we saw green grass, and we saw orange flowers. We were so excited by the amazing things that we had seen in this new world that we couldn't wait to get back inside so we could draw them and show our parents the amazing things we had seen. So we grabbed our crayons, and we sat down with our paper, and we drew. There we go. And we drew. And we drew. We drew and drew and drew until our hands hurt and our crayons were just tiny little stubs of wax. And we were so proud of the amazing thing we had just created by combining the sparks of inspiration we found for the very first time that we couldn't wait for our parents to see it. And the only thing that was more exciting than finishing that first figment was when they chose to put it up on the fridge for everyone to see. As a matter of fact, my mom thought those first figments were so important she saved them for 37 years just so I can show them to you today. Thanks, Mom! Now, as we grew into our teenage years, we continued to draw. We continued to do all sorts of amazing things, especially in the corner of our test papers. When I was 14, my family brought me to Walt Disney World for the very first time, and I was amazed by everything that I had seen. There are so many sparks of inspiration just waiting to be captured here. So it's no surprise that when I got home, I created this long-forgotten figment of vacation for our family photo album. Yeah, I thought the fireworks launched the space shuttle, and Space Mountain is shaped like one of those hats you get at the China Pavilion. And I feel real bad for the people on that train. Again, thanks, Mom. Now, somewhere between then and now, we started focusing on being adults. We were getting jobs and driving cars, and we spent less time creating things. Sure, we were still capturing the sparks of inspiration from the world around us, but we were no longer using them to create figments. So, I guess, by growing up, we stopped believing in ourselves. But if you stop for a moment and think back to when you were a child and all the joy you got from drawing in that coloring book or sketching on a piece of paper, it's not too difficult to realize we were all born artists. So take a moment and look to your left and look to your right and say hello to your fellow artists now that you finally got in touch with the fact that you're artists again. How you doing? How you doing? Hello, nice to meet you. So, the good thing is we still have the ability to take those sparks of inspiration that we collect and create new and amazing things. So, let's move on from the past and move a little bit more to today. With a show of hands, how many of you would consider yourself to be accomplished photographers? Says one woman with a very expensive looking camera. Everyone else's hands are down. All right, so then let me ask you another question. How many of you took a photo with your cell phone today of something truly beautiful or amazing here at Epcot's International Festival of the Arts? Way more hands went up that time. So, as I said, the first time I came to Walt Disney World, I was 14. Things were a lot different when you wanted to take out your camera and start making memories. You had to bring an entire extra bag with you back then because you had to have your camera, your film, your batteries. Let's see, what else? Anybody else? Camera, film, batteries? Flash, yes, you had to have flash bulbs. So basically, most families just brought one camera with them because it was just such an undertaking to bring a camera. And the only person who was allowed to take those photos was probably dad or mom because they paid for that camera. That was their investment. You were limited by how many photos you took, basically by how much film you brought with you or how much money you wanted to spend developing those photos when you got home. And you had to put everything in this tiny little clear plastic viewfinder because we didn't have screens on the backs of our cameras and we didn't have cell phones with big screens. So you had to get your shot right the first time. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to take 5 of these and see which one comes out, because that's a waste of film. I think that year I took 30 photos. That was considered a lot back then. And when I got home to get them developed, about half of them were blurry. I had spent my entire allowance on that. It's a total bummer. So my question now is, what changed between the good old days and today to make capturing the sparks of inspiration so much easier?
What about science?
So that's what changed. This was another water break. The science behind capturing the sparks of inspiration every day has changed. Nowadays, we pull out our cell phones and take photos of things without even thinking about it. We're no longer limited by how much film we have because we have almost unlimited storage space in the cloud. It's pretty amazing. The other thing that we have the ability to do is go, hey, I took this photo and it doesn't look like it came out. I can see it right now. I can preview it. So can we take that shot again? Let's take that shot again. By the way, these are my friends. Oh, look at that photo. Once you've taken the photo that you want, you can use filters on your phone to immediately make personal touches and adjustments to your photos, taking care of red eye or taking care of bright lights or dark rooms. Let's touch up that photo, shall we? Come on, we can do it. There it is. Once you've made your personal adjustments, apps that you can download for your phone can actually take that one step further and turn those photos into things which look like oil paintings or abstract drawings. I didn't use any of those on these. But then when you're done making those personal changes to your photos, you can upload them almost immediately to websites like Instagram or Facebook for the entire world to see and comment on. But wait a minute. That makes it sound like every single one of you has been an accomplished photographer this entire time, and you've been hosting online gallery exhibits of your work for everyone to see, doesn't it? I think so. All right, humor me here. Everyone pull out your phone, open up your photo folder, and pick a photo, anyone at random. Just make sure it's clean. I'll give you a couple of seconds or half a minute or whatever. Everyone have a photo? All right. If you don't have a photo, raise your hand. Good, everybody's got a photo. Do you know what you're looking at right now? You are looking at photographic proof that the sparks of inspiration truly exist. Yeah. Somewhere in that photo is something truly amazing that you said, this moment is something I want to remember for the rest of my life. Something inspired you to pull that phone out of your pocket where it's been sitting all day, open up the photo app, and take that photo. It might have been a topiary, it might have been a family member, it might have been an amazing piece of architecture, whatever it is, you said, this is so important to me that I need to have this for later. And when you think about it, that photo that you took, there's only one of that photo anywhere in the world. Potentially, you're creating hundreds of one-of-a-kind pieces of artwork just by pulling out your phone and snapping a photo of something on the fly. Because, think about it, no one else was standing at that spot taking that photo from that angle at that time of that item. It'd be hard to find anyone else who has that same photo. Even at a sporting event, when you're taking photos of that field, the person sitting next to you's photo is going to be slightly different because the head in front of them is different. Or somebody's beer is in the way. So, what you have on that phone right there, and you can close your photo apps at this point, I don't want to wear down your batteries, is potentially an amazing, one-of-a-kind piece of artwork. And if you take it one step further and send it out to have something done with it, like print on canvas or whatever, you're creating a tangible connection to a magical moment in your life. And when you look back at it, you're going to go, that was something I really enjoyed. For example, I'm a huge fan of the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. That event is where some of our classic Disney attractions like It's a Small World and Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress made their debut. Now, about the time that Disney's Tomorrowland came out in theaters, I was given an opportunity to travel to New York and see the site of the fair and see what was still left. Most of the buildings are gone, but some of them are still there, though they've fallen into disrepair. One of the most impressive buildings is the New York State Pavilion. You might recognize its observation towers from a non-Disney movie about aliens and men in black suits. Anyhow, I got to visit that pavilion and I walked around and saw what was left. I marveled at the flying saucer-shaped observation towers, what used to be the world's largest suspension cable roof, and I thought, gosh, this must have looked amazing when it was new, back in use during the fair. Sadly, the building's been off limits to the public since the late 1970s, but there is a group of people working very hard to increase awareness of the pavilion and hopefully help it find some adaptive reuse. I was so moved by the work that they are doing to refurbish this pavilion that I created a piece of artwork based off of one of the photos that I had taken, and I donated it to them so that they could use it to bring money in for materials and to further their work. They now offer that artwork on t-shirts, posters, and mugs to raise money for paint and for product and to help them open the pavilion up once a year as an open gate so that people can start getting interested in that pavilion. The next time I went back, I got to visit those people, and they gave me a very special tour of the pavilion itself. While we were walking around, they were telling me about the history, what used to be in there, what their hopes were for its future. It was truly amazing to hear these things from the experts. So of course, I pulled out my cell phone and I started snapping away at photos of everything that they were telling me about. When I got home, I had 250 photos to go through, just of the pavilion. So I took one of those photos, which I thought was a really cool angle, and created a brand new piece of artwork to commemorate that amazing visit. The finished piece shows what the pavilion would look like if it was to find adaptive reuse. It's actually kind of cool. Most of it's based off of history, but I've added a few of my own personal touches because, after all, it's my figment. I can use my sparks however I'd like. When I was done with that piece, I found out that the Queens Museum, which is located on the site of the New York World's Fair, was opening a competition for people to submit concept artwork to see what the public would like to do with the pavilion should it find adaptive reuse. It was open to children, adults, designers, architects, painters, whoever could pick up a crayon. I ended up entering, and my art was actually ended up in the top 10 based on public votes and was chosen to be part of this exhibit for 30 days in what used to be the New York City Pavilion at the World's Fair. I was very proud of this. I was very fortunate also to be able to go visit that site, again, thanks to the generosity of friends and family, so I could see my artwork hanging in an actual museum, which is like the dream of any artist. So, as I was trying to say here, a spark becomes a figment, but that next figment you create could inspire you yet again to create even more figments. And these 4 figments of preservation that I created from a few short visits to a relic of a long gone event act as sort of memory anchors for me. Whenever I look at these pieces of artwork that I've created, specific details of those visits come flooding back to me. And it's almost like I'm reliving those moments in real time again. So, at the beginning of this whole story, I was telling you about those photos that you were showing yourselves on your phone. Any one of those photos on your phone can grow into something much bigger if you just take it to the next step. We already know we're artists. You now know that you're also photographers even without thinking about it. So the next step from there is just to turn it into something physical and enjoy it. This was another water break. Let's head back to Epcot, shall we? All right, so when you take your sparks and turn them into figments, you don't have to do what I do with mine. You can do whatever you like. You might turn your love of flowers into a painting of flowers. You might turn your love of music into a new song or a dance. And you might turn your love of architecture into a new draft of a potential building. If you enjoy engineering, engineering is also a form of art. Whatever you do with your sparks should make you happy. And the reason is because when you put your joy into your figment, people who see the finished product are going to get joy out of your figment. So, my joy comes from turning photos that I create into digital artwork. Some of that artwork has gone on to become desktop wallpapers for the official Disney Parks blog, and for some artwork in one of our former video games, Disney's Virtual Magic Kingdom. I would like to share with you a few of the photos and the pieces of art I created and tell you a little bit about what inspired them. We're going to start with Epcot. I love Epcot. So how many of you remember the Millennium Wand? How many of you like it without the Millennium Wand? So I'm a big fan of original Epcot, like 1982 Epcot with its clean lines and bright blue polyester jumpsuits. So when I took and created this piece of artwork based on that photo, I went with kind of an old school color scheme, but I kept the current architecture. I kind of call this my Hannah Montana of art pieces. It's the best of both worlds. So remember, nothing has to be exact. If you wanted a photo you would just use your photo. When you create a piece of artwork, don't worry about getting the details right. For the next shot, we're going to head over to another classic Epcot attraction, Living with the Lamboat Ride. Who likes Living with the Lamboat Ride? Here we see Professor Ludwig von Drake enjoying the Behind the Seeds tour, and he's found some very interesting plant varieties. On the left-hand side, it seems he's found some duckweed, which is shaped like little ducks. And on the right, he's found a flock of gooseberries, which appear to be flying towards a sign that says "This way south." But the overall joke here is duck, duck, goose. Remember, you can put a lot of yourself into your artwork. If your humor is dad humor, put it in there. Someone else really appreciates dad humor. For our next picture, we're going to head back to World Showcase. Springtime brings flowers, and nowhere is that more apparent than Victoria Gardens at the Canada Showcase. I love this photo, so when I turned it into a piece of artwork, I said, let's put some Disney characters in there too. And so we'll find Humphrey the Bear and Ranger Audubon Woodlore enjoying the rustic sights of the Canada Showcase. I sampled the colors from my favorite Humphrey the Bear cartoon, In the Bag. You might remember the song, first you stick a rag, put it in the bag, boom, boom. We're back to Spaceship Earth, but this time at night. I love the way the colored lighting reflects on the Aluka Bond panels of this classic Disney theme park icon. So when I took the picture and turned it into artwork, I focused on that one and only detail. You know how when you focus on something, you just see what's in front of you and everything around is just blurry and you really kind of ignore it altogether? When you create a piece of artwork, if there's only one detail that you really want to communicate, focus all your efforts on that. You don't have to worry about the other stuff around it. This is what communicates what you're most interested in. So for the next shot, we're going to hop on the Highway in the Sky monorail over to... It's going to get there, I promise. It's a video. The Magic Toaster. I love Disney's Contemporary Resort. This vintage photo from Disney Days Past served as my reference for the original building, while another photo I took during a monorail ride to dinner served as a reference for the Bay Lake Tower building. So when you put the two together, you end up with a beautiful, clear, uncluttered view of Monorail Orange, leaving Disney's Contemporary Resort for the Magic Kingdom. And speaking of the Magic Kingdom, the Dole Whip will always be number one, but the Citrus Swirl is my number two. I love number two. So here we have the Orange Bird enjoying a citrus swirl. Did you know the Orange Bird used to make appearances in front of Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room? And that's where I got my start here at Walt Disney World. For our next picture, we're going to go clear across the country to Disneyland USA, where Disney legend Rolly Crump created a beautiful facade for It's a Small World. Did you know that It's a Small World debuted at the 1964-65 New York World's Fair? Have I told you how much I love the 1964-65 New York World's Fair? So when I created this piece of artwork, I made sure that I put the dedication plaque front and center and in plenty of detail for everyone to see. And speaking of the New York World's Fair, we're going to head over to Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. Now, I'm a sucker for Disney history, so when I turned it into this piece of artwork, I hit a few nods to the attraction's storied past. On the marquee, the 1964, obviously the year it opened at the New York World's Fair. But if you look in the upper right corner, that People Mover train has a 67. That's the year that it opened at Disneyland. And in the upper left corner, you'll find a 75, which is the year it opened here at Walt Disney World, where it's still spinning today over at the Magic Kingdom. Be sure to stop by and say hi to the family. Since we're still so close to Valentine's Day, I also included this one. This is Johnny Fedora and Alice Bluebonnet from the 1946 classic Disney animated feature, Make Mine Music. They're celebrating Valentine's Day with chocolates in the window of Main Street Emporium. Aww. Lastly, this piece. This is kind of one of my favorite pieces that I've done. I was asked to create a piece of artwork which could be used as part of a recognition program at the Magic Kingdom for cast members who go above and beyond to make magic for our guests. Now, the Magic Kingdom's been my home since 1997, and it has always inspired me. And it's only the reason it inspires me is because of all the cast members who keep doing such amazing work. So when they said, hey, would you like to help us design some artwork for recognition program? I was like, yes! So in creating this, I went ahead and hid some of my favorite details about the park. You might not be able to see it unless you're right next to the screen, but the Liberty Bell has a little crack in it. The Liberty Tree in Liberty Square has 13 little lanterns on it representing the 13 original colonies, just like the real thing in the park. There are people mover trains zipping all through Tomorrowland, and over in the Jungle Cruise River, there are two little hippos getting ready to capsize one of the original red and white canopied boats. See, again, this park inspires me, and this piece of artwork ends up being given to people who make it so inspirational. And that's one of the best things about art. All art comes from inspiration, and then can go on to become inspiration, if you let it. But enough about me, enough about my figments. Let's get back to talking about all of you. Just face it, you're all artists. When you were little, you stepped outside for the very first time, you saw amazing things, you let that one little spark impact you, and you came back in and you drew green clouds and yellow grass and purple trees, and you let that one little spark of inspiration flow over you without any hesitation. Later on, your crayons gave way to new electronic means of collecting those sparks as you searched the universe for sights, sounds, and colors, anything which would spark your imagination. And as you were collecting those sparks with your cell phones, you were starting to create tangible connections to your life's most magical moments. And when you collect all those magical moments, kind of like all those sparks of inspiration you collect during a magical vacation to the most magical place on Earth, aka Walt Disney World, you have a recipe for one pretty darned amazing figment when you get home. So, in closing, almost closing, you're all dream finders. You can use the sparks you collect to visit worlds that were, that could be, of fantasy or reality. And you can create artwork which lets you share the joys of things that you're most passionate about with your friends and family and make the world a beautiful place. In other words, we are here to change the world. Captain EO shirt. Sadly, our journey into inspiration is quickly coming to an end, but your journey into imagination is just about to begin. Imagine all the sights, sounds, and colors just waiting for you outside at the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. And imagine all the amazing sparks of inspiration just waiting for you to capture them through those doors. All right, Dreamfinders, you've been reunited with that one little spark that lives way down inside you. I now invite you to visit Epcot, our creative playground of the future, where the only thing keeping you from creating your first or next figment are the limits of your imagination. You ready? Let's get going. Thank you very much.
Right at the start of everything that's new, one little spark lights up for you. Imagination. A dream can be a dream come true with just that spark in me and you.